Hello and welcome to episode 510 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where a small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the artist, creator, and all-round wunderkind behind the epic webcomic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And a writer, creator, and all-round wunderbus behind titles such as Atomic Hercules and The Dirty Basement. Every time I'm saying your titles, Tony, I can't help but laugh. It's Tony Esmond.
Hello.
A fine purveyor of filth and
Tony
wonder.
Osmond 2 went to print about half an hour ago.
Hey, fantastic.
Full print run. There you go.
And we just have to make this clear. That's Tony Osmond is a movie star. Not Tony
Esmond, totally separate people.
Yeah. It's not an autobiographical comic. If it was,
we had a
well,
I don't know. The crucifixion
tribute
scene has a moment.
Tony Osmond got mentioned in the latest Vanguard page.
Yes, he did. Thank you, mate. Cheers, very kind of you.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
One of the characters wanted to bang him, but he didn't turn up.
Yeah,
obviously.
It's the only multiverse I'll endorse.
we went through. I was going through it with Cliff and Ken, and we got to the sort of confessional scene on the crucifixion scene. Obviously, spoilers. And I went, it's a bit too much, me. I might have to take a bit of that dialogue out.
Yeah. That's coming from Tony.
I was obviously having a bad day.
Yeah.
These are the things that happen.
Don't do drugs, folks.
Behind the scenes.
Take it down a bit. Take it down a bit.
Behind the scenes when you're making comics, especially comics that push the limits.
Credulity.
Yeah. It's interesting though, isn't it? Like when you're creating comics, especially comics that you do want to push boundaries. And here's a question before we've got an exciting sort of focus of this week's episode, and quite timely too. We're not going to spoil anything just yet, so if you're listening fresh, you'll discover as you listen along, which is exciting, isn't it? But in terms of writing these books that sort of push the boundaries, some say they're dangerous comics, or they're really just, there's a sense of not giving a fuck about the system or the readers or the audience or anything like that. But as individual creators, when you set out to do those, and I think everyone's an individual, everyone's different, but when you set out to make your comics like that, is that a conscious thought, like a definite? Is that a thought above the story?
What do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean? What would I be thinking?
Before a creator, or take it you, Tony, does the story come first, and then you see how far you can push it, or do you just always want to just think, right, I'm just going to fucking go there?
No
matter what.
Everything is in service to the vibe and the way that I'm writing it.
Yeah,
I don't go out and think, this will upset a few people. I'll put this in, or this is like. And it's really interesting you say that, because it's been on my mind a lot today, because I've been researching UK litigious and law. Some call it lawfare against comics. That censorship thing that happened in the early 70s, and I was reading some Oz magazine. Are you aware of the Oz magazine scandal of the early 70s, where it got
No, I've read about it. I can't recall what it was about though.
It's the longest obscene publications case in British history at the High Court against Oz Magazine, who reprinted a Crumb comic, but they took Rupert Bear's head and put it on the head of the person with the penis out having sex, and it's a massive thing, and it was just the darling of the press, and Yoko Ono and John Lennon wrote a song and turned up at the demonstrations, and the defendants would turn up dressed as schoolgirls just to wind up people, and it was a really big thing. And I went into it with a very open mind. And I've read probably thousands of pages on it at this point. There's a book on it. There's all sorts of things on it, and I think you've very much got to run it on a case by case basis. Same as we say with everything. That one, I really do not like those men. One of them recently appeared on, spoilers for the podcast I'm doing with Eamon. Apologies, Eamon, but I listened to a podcast with one of the defendants, and he's probably quite possibly the most unpleasant man I've ever heard.
Fucking hell.
Or horribly unpleasant. And then there's another case of it with Nasty Tales, which is a comic that came from pretty much the same company, the same group, and they got taken to court for a similar thing, and it's so different. Chalk and cheese, even though they're side by side companies, side by side magazines, chalk and cheese in the way that they approached it and why they got taken to court and how they treated it and stuff like that. And I think it's the only way you can do it. I wouldn't say that my approach to it, it's got to be in the service of the story is what everyone does.
Yeah.
I mean, the big guy is Crumb, isn't he? Crumb's sort of seeming obsession with fucking incest and stuff. Where is it? I think to be a long answer to your question, Vince. Where is it coming from? What is it dependent on me in a lot of cases.
I mean, because
if I can tell,
because there are personalities that just want to provoke. They just want to, or sometimes they just want to start fights.
People want to get eyes. These days it's clicks. Back then it was sales. Yeah. Some people are just searching for that, and maybe that's how Oz ended up in the end because it's some of the later issues I read, but. Yeah, I really didn't like
outrage fucking stuff sells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
But
I mean, look at Loaded Magazine and Maxim and stuff like that. It was kind of another version of that.
What is the comic version of that, though? That it's an outrage comic that people are like, oh my God, I can't believe this.
That's an interesting one, isn't it?
I mean, the thing about a lot of sort of comics now is a lot of people's personal politics, no matter what they would be from whatever angle, whatever fucking part of the compass you're on. They put them in the pages and over story, which I think does
Death of Robin, maybe, which came from a phone call.
Yeah,
like a phone line thing.
But the modern, especially modern, like now comics, there's so much about and there's so much noise. It's white noise now because it's just static. It's just there's so much of it. There's so many voices. It's like being in a convention hall when it's busy. There's so many voices you can't hear yourself think sometimes. But of course, back then, the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s with the EC and stuff like that, there was less distractions from other media.
Maybe with comics, it comes from elsewhere. Do you think? When you say about that outrage, it's almost like it comes from elsewhere other than the comics themselves. When you talk about EC,
a lot of it, and these sort of outrages that fandom have had over the time, whether it be comics and, like you say, the obscene sort of
Publications Act,
publications, tabletop gaming, satanic panic, all of that kind of stuff. It's usually a lot of people that don't have no idea, they're outside, who are making a judgment of something on the other side of the fence.
It's usually where they go for the kind of the most proliferant sort of powerful media of the day, where comics were at some point. Now it's like, oh, that's not interesting. So
this is popular. I don't know about this. What is this? I don't like it. Therefore, it's bad.
Oh fuck! Harry Potter's the devil. Pokemon's like evil.
Harry Potter had a whole thing, wasn't it? Because it was like witchcraft and wizards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it does have that. I mean.
I suppose.
It is evil, and then there's no real mention of our Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ.
I think that with now it's more likely. With Harry Potter, it's more likely to be the opinions of J.K. Rowling because people don't agree with them.
Yes.
So it's almost going to be that.
Yeah.
I was trying to think when the last time the actual comic itself was the thing. And
I think maybe times it's the creators and the creators' opinions that they've expressed on in other mediums, not in the comics.
Do you remember Howard Chaykin's cover where there was someone hanging with a racial slur pinned to them?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Now, the outrage, I don't know what Chaykin's intentions were on that. But the outrage seemingly came more from people objecting to it than his creation of it. I don't know whether that's right or not. I don't know.
Do you remember the Killing Joke homage for the Batgirl cover?
Yes.
Where it had Joker with it, and that got pulled because they were like, this is too much. And I was like...
It's hard to tell what's in the hearts of the creator when they're making it, because one could argue that there's a lot of art that is designed to outrage.
Yeah.
A lot of modern art, for example, stuff like that.
Totally.
But isn't that part of the art sometimes?
But there's also so many layers, so many variables there. I mean, this was just a simple question, but I feel like it's almost an entire show, which we will. Us will delve into these topics properly, even more detail. But there's also, for instance, take that Batgirl cover, Dan. That's a really good example, I think. For instance, that's an artist doing a cover. And their intention is not to upset someone. Their intention is not to.
Do we know that though?
I think. Well, it's hard
They'd
to
have
say.
to run it past editorial.
Yeah. I like to veer on the side that I don't think it was.
Yeah.
But you know,
I think because it was like a horror movie image. That was kind of like how I saw it. It was a striking cover and wonderful art. I can't remember the artist now. Forgive me, but
no, I can't. I'm sorry.
I remember the way it kicked off afterwards. They must have been like, "Fuck! I was just doing a comic cover." Do you know what I mean?
But I said, it would have gone past editorial. Someone would have seen this. That I'm going to do this cover. So it got like it wasn't just
sometimes, perhaps not this time, but sometimes it may be the editorial people who suggest a cover idea for something.
I think sometimes the standards of the world are not applied to comics because people outside of the scene seem to think that they're still for children. And I think that the standards are, I mean, look at the stuff you can find on the internet in 1 second. You know, look at the stuff we see in horror movies, on television, on mainstream television, you know, the sort of serial killer things we see, you know, but the standards that are given to comics seem to be, you know, the Daily Mail reader seems to be outraged by because someone, for example, might get crucified in a comic. Yeah. But it's sort of, it's hark back
to this idealized version of the Beano or the Dandy.
Yeah, but if it happened in a 9 p.m. crime drama on Channel 4, nobody would blink an eye. No. It seems to think that, I don't know whether people have, and I think because it's a smaller world and voices can be heard a lot easier, I think people use it to their own effect.
Yeah.
You know, the outrage mentality uses it to try and get clicks and attention to themselves. You know, how often have we seen... You know, I remember a certain outrage about a certain comic company in the UK, and then like 2 weeks later, people saying, "Oh, thanks for reading the thread I did on this company. Oh, by the way, I've got a comic out too." And we're like, "Fuck's sake, you just ruin people's jobs by trying to promote yourself."
Yeah.
That's the new thing of shitting on someone to kind of bring yourself up, isn't it?
While I'm getting lots of view on my X account, on my Blue Sky account, can I remind you that I've also got a shop with my comics available? It's like that.
I mean, personally, on this show, we think everyone's shit, and you can follow us on social media. No,
join the Slack.
But here's a just to sort of round this off with what I think is a interesting sort of moral question, and this only really applies going back to briefly to that cover conversation, and someone's working within a system, within a publisher, and editorial teams and things like that. And like you say, they've offered this artwork and it's gone through and they've approved it, maybe with a big thumbs up. It goes out, it outrages, it offends, everyone kicks off. The retractions, they have to change the cover of the book. Do you think editors should speak up more? Or, because a lot of these times in these instances, I only hear from the artists saying, "Sorry, I didn't mean any of this to happen," which is, you know, if the artist wants to come forward and say that. But, and this, people could correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm only talking about what I've seen. I don't really see, it's more about the artist doing it rather than the editorial team.
Yeah, you're right. I've just read Tom Brevoort's blog, comes out every Sunday just before we record, actually. And, it's Substack, and in it, somebody asked him how often do you make changes or give notes to comics that come through, and he says it always. I think, to paraphrase him, he says there's very rarely a time when I don't give notes or opinions as an editor, and I'm thinking, so that must include covers, so that must include that cover you put up, Dan. So They seem to sort of crawl up in a corner and leave it to the freelancer to take the fucking shit over.
And that's what I'm thinking. If you're an editor who's like, is it upon you to sort of say, "Look, we're sorry about this," you know, because they rarely sort of step forward to almost support the freelancer, unless I'm mistaken.
I honestly don't get the hullabaloo, but I think if I can recall, the problem was at the time that of that series, it was relatively light in tone. And then you harken back to the Killing Joke, which some people seem to have a big problem with. I don't understand that.
No.
I don't get it, but that's subjective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the editorial needs to stand up and say, "Look, everyone, calm down. The reason we did this was for this reason. You know, this happens in the real world. We're reflecting this thing that happened. We're reflecting this thing."
You would do it just to get fucking sales, wouldn't you? Like, that whole point of that cover is to generate interest and talk and people.
Another fucking page on Bleeding Cool, isn't it?
And to be honest, the thing that I have more of a problem with when it comes to Batgirl and stuff, they never should have taken her out of the chair.
No, I have a massive problem with that. And who did we have on the show to talk about disability? Andy Cliff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Andy agrees with me, and I tend to take his advice on it, and I agree completely.
Yeah.
Massive backward step for the character. And
that seemingly everyone is
such a massive positive portrayal.
People have forgotten, and so many years have gone by now that for a lot of younger readers, that's their Batgirl. It's like, okay, let's have a strong voice. That's
last week's writer was saying about how he loves Batgirl sketches. Do you remember?
Yeah,
that's how he got in touch with the artist. I was thinking,
So
he's only a young geezer, wasn't he? So
should have maybe asked him. Well, we didn't have the foresight to ask that question.
No. We don't think ahead
of
hindsight
now. Yeah.
Just like we didn't think we were going to have such a thoughtful discussion about this, but
I think it comes back, Vince, nuance, case by case basis. It's always got to be that. I think if you're reacting and saying everything is one thing, everything is another thing, then you're probably a fucking idiot. I agree. You've got to apply yourself to the situation.
Yeah. And do you think, as a creator, first and foremost, it must always be about the story?
I think so.
Rather than your personality attempting to shock.
I mean,
it's like comedians, isn't it? There are certain comedians that I find absolutely nothing that they're saying is funny because they're just trying to shock for the fuck of it, and it's like, okay, all right, we all get it. You're edgy.
It adds to the story and the vibe of the particular story. Now, we kill someone with a penis in the first issue of Atomic Hercules because I wanted to lay the groundwork. Spoilers. I wanted to lay the groundwork that's what the humour is going to be. Yeah. That's going to be the tone. That's the underground version of it. That's the don't give a fuck. That's the sexual element to it, And, I didn't think, I'll put this in because it'll fucking be outrageous. I did put it in because I thought it might be funny, but then again, that's the tone of the comic.
But do you also think... Sorry, Dan. Do you also think that, and for both of you, like, people should definitely think about the content that they're putting in, and even if they're trying to push the envelope? And
I think that's massively applicable to every single moment you write in a comic.
Yeah, how far can too far go? It's that kind of.
Yeah, we just had a conversation about we won't name it, but we just had a conversation about a moment in a TV series that was just put in. Just to placate the politics of a writer and had nothing to do with any of the writing elsewhere in it. And I think that somebody should have gone, how does this, what is in service of the story here, or what is in service of whatever in this?
My first thought was to open that up to the Slack and just think, can you guess what show it is? But it could be fucking any show right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I've got a new City Club Pug bit this week.
Oh, did you?
One for the office.
Lovely. Yeah. How many cities have you got?
Two and a Sue.
Nice.
Oh, right. No sweep.
Not Sweep. Sweep just squeaks, doesn't he? He's a bit of a rebel. Although he's my favourite, you see, Sweep. He's my favourite.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you just don't want to sully him by putting your hand up him?
I want to. The thing is,
the most irritating because like City and Sweep are getting down to fucking about. She comes on.
Is this right? Because she's got a voice. All right, Dan.
All right, Karen.
City and Sweep want to sit up playing video games, having a bath, whatever. She comes in giving it the big one. Like, you shouldn't be doing that.
I'll tell you what. If you want to cheer yourself up, just look up Sooty and Sweep on YouTube, and then after that, go and look up Sooty's car. Because he drives like not Sweep's car. He's got a bone. He's got a steering wheel on a big bone that he drives around. It is the best fucking thing in the world.
Legendary. I just wanted to rewind just a little bit.
British,
you're not
look up Sooty and Sweep.
Sooty and Sweep's fucking classic. Shout out to all the Sooty fans and all the people that work on Sooty right now, because especially the people who do the magazine, because that's some of the funniest shit you'll see.
Brilliant.
But I just want to rewind just a little bit. Dan, when you were talking about Sooty and Sweep just want to hang out. Now, in terms of rebellious behaviour, you've got playing video games all night or having a bath.
There's always scenes of them like having a bath.
Is that the height of rebellious nature in your household?
Do you view
I know it's 9:30. I'm going to have a bath.
I'm going to fuck it off.
Do you view Sooty and Sweep through the platform of X-Hamster whenever you do them? Or is it... My favourite thing with Sooty and Sweep is when they used to run off. Do you remember? They used to run off.
The legs. Whenever you see the
little feet.
It's the best.
It's like some geezer with like these two fingers.
His fingers in a pair of shoes.
Running.
Yeah.
Man, the fucking the listeners get whiplash.
I'll tell you what. I do want to spoil this for you guys, but we've got a special guest, and it is Sooty. Do you want to say a big hello to the audience, Sooty?
He's waving.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, Izzy Wizzy, let's get busy.
He's got to head out now, so
I fucking love it so much. But honestly, after this show, go and just put a little bit of YouTube.
Yeah. That's the second time Sooty's been on this show. As well,
second, it's a recurring guest.
He's a recurring friend of the show, Sooty.
Tag him in. Tag him in on fucking...
I mean, everyone's got a podcast these days. I'm surprised Sooty hasn't.
I'd be better than most of them.
I'm sure there's a song that he'd put out, and it's just silence. I'm sure of it. Let me Google that shit.
Maybe we can put it in after the credits.
Have there been... have there been any Sooty comics? Like UK comics?
Yeah.
Yeah? Have you got them all?
I wish I had. No, I'll be willing to bet that Rich Sheaf has got them.
Yeah, probably.
The man with the knowledge.
Yeah. Although he's got quite a lot of knowledge about Super Ted, hasn't he? Isn't that what he talks about?
They're doing a definite competition, aren't they?
Yeah. Fucking loved Super Ted back in the day. Anyway, speaking of superheroes...
Go to the headline moment.
Yeah. We've got a new section that we're very excited to be starting. I mean, it just came about in the past couple of weeks because of a certain event, which Tony will fill you in on in just a moment. But this is the debut of Classic Comics Corner. Cue the music. Yes, now, obviously, here on the Awesome Comics podcast, we are quite literate. We go into the annals of comics history, and we look at some of the legend.
Well, inside the actor's studio, he's doing that voice, isn't he?
Yeah. And we look back on some of the classics that have shaped generations. Nay, maybe even shaped the characters that we now adore, and no longer actually probably resemble the characters that they were when they first arrived. And there is a very special issue that we wish to talk about on the debut of this particular section, and some would say it's giant size. Isn't that right, Tony Esmond?
Yeah, not giant size man thing. That would be a whole other thing. Is we're going to talk about giant size X-Men.
Yes.
Which, interestingly, is 50 years old. Very recently, last few weeks.
It's older than me.
Yeah. It's not older than me.
I'm 60.
So massively forming, there's so much of it that comes after this, isn't there? It really is the one that kind of started it all, So just a little bit of background to it. So the X-Men, with the original X-Men, the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby X-Men, had run for quite a few years, but had, this will surprise you, not been a sales winner, really.
No, was it? Yeah.
So back then, sales were calculated. Sometimes you wouldn't know the sales results on a comic until 9 months later. So there was a little peak with Steranko and especially the Neil Adams and Roy Thomas X-Men, which is where we got the sort of Havoc stuff. We got some really great Sentinel stuff, and it was just before Neil Adams went to DC. Now, they found out much later that had actually been quite successful. So there was a little bit of a groundswell of bring back the X-Men going on. It was appearing in their columns and stuff like that. But the X-Men became pretty much a reprint comic for about 5 years. So the 5 years before Giant Size X-Men came out was kind of like a real barren ground for the X-books, which is unusual to us then, I mean, Giant Size X-Men and issue 94 that followed on from it were bi-monthly comics. So it was bi-monthly for a while. So when you think about that, there was 6 X-Men comics out a year. Now we get 6 X-Men comics out a week.
Yeah.
Pretty much, in some way or other.
Yeah.
So what happened with this was there was a discussion going around, and if you listen to Roy Thomas talk about it, he claims that it was his idea, but I kind of think it probably came from a bullpen kind of discussion, where they wanted a team that was an internationally representative team at the time, which is why we get all those characters from different countries.
Yeah.
And they gave it to, now this always sticks in the arse of Chris Claremont, which makes me laugh my arse off, is that Len Wein wrote Giant Size 1 with art by Dave Cockrum and a cover by Gil Kane did the pencils on it. So that iconic cover of them bursting out, which has been homaged so many times, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, at the time, Claremont was an intern in the office and not really a writer. And he says, there's a YouTube, I think it came out around the time one of the X movies, or it might even been that recent X-Men cartoon, where he says that Len Wein kept closing the door on him. So he kept trying to get into the meeting about the bringing back the X-Men, and Len Wein, I'm not sure he meant literally or figuratively, closed the door on him and kept closing the door on him. Now, there's a moment at the end of this when the villain is defeated, and I will talk about the story, I guess, in a minute, where the villain is defeated, and Claremont claims that was his idea. Now, it's sent into space.
Yeah.
So they needed a combination of this sort of longer story. But Len Wein was, very well established. He'd worked as an editor as well as a writer. A really, and he appeared on a couple of podcasts as a regular towards the end of his life. Fucking lovely guy, like the nicest guy.
Also responsible for Wolverine as well, isn't he? So.
Yes, yeah. So Glynis Wein on colours, Dave Cockrum on pencils. I haven't got the letter in front of me. Who is it? Is it
John Costanza?
John Costanza, right? Okay.
No, George Costanza. That's a
George Costanza from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
At the time as well, Cockrum was kind of seen as the daddy of character design in a way, or that's certainly how Claremont describes him in the interview. And he had basically been designing stuff like Legion of Superheroes characters. So there are some lean-ins from these characters, and if you go through some of the design work that's available, I think in some of the collections, you can see a lot. I think allegedly, anecdotally, there were 49 versions of the Jean Grey costume that he worked on. Some which were a bit more Storm-esque in their character design. Now,
this is the most nondescript fucking costume going.
It's a bit, isn't it?
Jean Grey, yeah.
So some of the
an
characters...
orange dress. No, what about a green one? Yeah, that's good.
yeah. So some of the characters came from elsewhere. So Banshee, obviously the Irish character, came from originally he was in X-Men 28, and he'd have been in a Captain America issue as well.
He's not on the cover,
isn't he? Oh, okay.
Neither's Sunspot.
Ah, right.
Sunfire. Sorry, Sunfire.
Sunfire. Yeah. The oh yeah, of course. Yeah. The other one, so Sunfire came from X-Men 64. He'd previously been the X-Men as well. Wolverine, as we all know, first appearance Hulk 80, first full appearance Hulk 181. Illyana, there's an appearance of Illyana in this as well. It's kind of like a covert appearance of a future New Mutant, because she appears in a very quick scene.
But it very much, like reading this, it's interesting when you read stuff like this, and even if you've read this many times over the years, which many people have, just if anyone reads it and just thinks, oh, they're clearly setting up for something there. No, they fucking weren't. That's what
just
I think.
The side character.
It's just
safe.
It's Colossus'
I guess,
sister.
yeah, I think so, because it's years
just
later.
Fucking sat there, and but we'll get to the episode.
Very different as well from when we later see them.
Yeah,
as well. I thought the approach that I read was interesting as well, where the sort of editorial discussion was that we don't want to make it a Monster of the Week book, which perhaps, in a way, sometimes it had been previously. There's the famous Frankenstein issue. They want to make it more about the team and threats against them, which I think it successfully does, and does still semi-successfully occasionally at the moment. And it sort of sets the rules that we still see today with the teams and the changing of the teams and stuff like that. Interestingly, also, Mike Friedrich had been approached to write it before Len Wein. That would have been a whole different book if you know anything about him. There's been various different versions of it that have been printed. I tried to count. I think I might have 6 versions of it.
I got the one just digitally. I didn't realise I already had a copy of it within a collection. I got there. I think it was like £1.49 on Comixology.
I got it on Amazon.
Says on the cover it's 68 big pages. It's a 37-page comic. It's just that main story. That's literally all they've done. Which was kind of all we were reading anyway.
Can I just one last thing? Nightcrawler actually appeared previously. So hasn't appeared previously. Nightcrawler had been destined to be in a DC book. Very, very, very like he is in this. So he just took the design for this comic he pitched.
We will start off with him shortly.
Yeah, they took the pitch. Cockram took the pitch character and put it in the Marvel book.
Okay.
Those days, that sort of thing happened a lot.
Okay.
You know.
So
is this the first time you guys have read it?
No, I've read it before.
A long time ago, I read it, and so many comics, and especially the
I've read this years and years ago,
and it was a joy to reread this. Let's start off with the initial feelings of like how it before we get stuck into the issue itself and the breakdown. And of course, if you've got your copy, if you download a copy, read along with us, folks, as we're talking about this, because So personally, for me, I love that sort of reading old school writing and like that sort of, because this is 75, isn't it? That's what it's got on the cover. So it's also a fascinating historical document of like the pacing of stories and the way comics were, and I just love that sort of tone of voice, and seeing the things that work, how much you can get onto a page, and also sometimes they wouldn't write that now. These sort of moments, which all come together to make an enjoyable sort of nostalgic experience.
That's mad, mate, that you call it a historical document, because this is my childhood.
I know.
It's weird, isn't it? But I can see why you're saying that. Absolutely,
it lays so many foundations that the X books draw on today.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's,
sorry, man.
and I know a lot. How many reprints have there been of the first X-Men with Magneto and stuff? This is the most important X-Men book that there ever was, I think.
Okay, that's a bold claim.
There's definitely an argument for that. I agree. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that nothing else is as important.
No.
But the snowball effect of what happens here is felt.
So it's interesting. They sort of like, so the setup is you start off and you get like these 2 or 3 page sort of vignettes of Professor X going around and recruiting a new team of X-Men, which we're going to come to the reason why he's doing that. After we go through them all.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the pacing of that in a second.
So you're going to start off. So the first one is.
How did you find reading it, Dan?
Oh, I loved it. There's some bits in it that made me laugh out loud because of like how things have changed. And when I read it, I was like, "That's fucking great. I love that." It's just,
I mean, in today's money, it's a little overwritten, isn't it? I'd say.
But
I didn't mind it. But in today's, can I just say the first time I ever read this, it's very difficult to remember, but I think it was in French. So
really? Okay.
I think I'd missed this in trying to get it off the shelf or anything, and I read it in Lestrange, and then went back and much later got a copy of it, but then read it elsewhere. Yeah. Can I say that the version I'm reading it from as well, or rereading it from, is I got X-Men Grand Designs, very kindly bought by Ed Piscor, very kindly given to me by Tom Stewart from That Comic Smell. And I was looking through it and I was watching the Kayfabe episode on this, which is really good. Tom Scioli's on it as well. And I didn't realise this was in the back. And what he's done is he's recoloured. Piscor has recoloured the actual issue. So there's ever so slight changes to tone and colour in it. I mean, it's all the same artwork and stuff, and the writing, but he's recoloured it, which is interesting.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, he didn't change the weird face of the Beast.
Yeah, that fucking mental.
Oh, good. I'm glad you said that. Because that freaked me out. Okay, so but you enjoyed it, Tony, having this reread.
Oh, I loved it, man. Yeah. Plus, for those that want to get the special collector's edition and Grand Designs, it's an extra size, so it's almost artist edition size. These ones,
and on a sort of like old style paper, isn't it?
Yeah, very matte paper. Yeah.
Todd McFarlane Wolverine on the face.
Yeah,
of the page.
It was. Yeah, I don't know why that's there. To be fair, I expect just to replace an advert.
Because that popped up he did the Spider-Man issue with Wolverine in it. I presume that was picking up from there.
I think so.
So we're going to go through the book now. We're not going to do it page and panel by panel. No. Read this for yourself and enjoy it. If you haven't already, perhaps you're a newer reader to comics. You haven't read something like that. It's a great little read. It's a real fun little read. I
old
think
school comics are just blasting through stuff.
So obviously everyone has seen the classic cover. We all know what the cover's about. If you go to the first page of the comic, and this is something that, tell me if this happens much in comics anymore, just across the board. But they used to do this with old Marvel, where the first page of the book was almost like another cover. It was almost you see the first page that's got all the credits and everything is the team running forward. you know.
Yeah, and it shows more of the team as well. Like you say, it has Banshee and Sunfire on it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder, was that a change was the cover commission before the comic was complete?
I don't know.
I don't know why.
I don't know. I like it though. I do like it, and I think it works in a very similar way, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, someone probably owns this page of artwork.
Yeah.
And that must have gone for a pretty penny.
So this kind of like reintroduces like the characters in a way, but also for new readers, this is
Well, immediately front and center. It's showing, you know, if there were older readers of the X-Men who are just picking this up, you are front and center. You're greeted with a load of people that you probably don't recognise. Just
that's the excitement for me back then. Yeah. These days I go, oh, what is this fucking bollocks now? But that back then I go, oh gosh, it's like collecting top trumps, isn't it? Like, who are these characters? I need to know about these characters now.
Yeah, on the cover, Cyclops is part of the team on the cover. He's with them. He is not on the first page.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah. He's also got the old visor on.
Yeah.
You notice that he's got his old
because that changes in the story.
Yeah.
Let's get cracking. So
So obviously, it opens up in Winseldorf, Germany. Now, as Dan said, the first group of pages from this is introducing new characters, and I think it's interesting you said that about Nightcrawler and how already developed and was going to be a character
design-wise. He was actually going to be in a comic called The Outsiders at DC, believe it or not, not the ones we know of.
Okay.
But
he gets a whole three entire pages. Yeah. Which follow almost the Frankenstein's monster sort of format of, you know,
good storytelling as well.
Yeah, pitchforks, torches.
There's no mention of his teleportation abilities in those first three.
Yeah, that's a weird one, isn't it?
I'm not sure if they evolved that later on. So, we can't just have a guy that crawls around. He grabs something else.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because he literally jumps from a building onto some people and just starts beating them up.
Depends how people draw Nightcrawler as well. He on page 3 there, he looks like he's got a bit of muscle about him. Some people draw him more lithe, don't they? Yeah.
There's almost an ape-like structure to him. The way he's.
I know we hate to talk about the movies, but I must say that the introduction of Nightcrawler in that X-Men movie where he's in the White House, I still think has never been bettered for an introduction.
That's brilliant.
Fucking great.
Brilliant.
But also, and this is something immediately I knew I was going to enjoy this book because it's just something I miss. Thought balloons, I just miss them.
Yeah, me too.
I just really fucking miss them, and there's so much going on with so many thought balloons in this. It's a narrative choice that, you know, I guess naturally the comics evolve as does everything else, and it seems about something that has died on the vine. So much
insight into this new personality, doesn't it? It really does.
Yeah.
It's good though if they're new characters to kind of get what they're thinking. Also gives the reader so much more to kind of know them by. I like it. The locals are like charging around like with burning torches and pitchforks and crosses. Like we're gonna fucking get him. And
so things like he also thinks Germany's still in the Middle Ages.
But
you know, all the American writers sort of did that at that age, didn't they? Like when he went to London, it's like foggy streets. And
exactly.
Like
that was all the way into the 90s. That was.
Yeah.
You can see Dan's pants. Look,
lovely. The stuff that the audio listeners don't get to see
would pay for.
They're beautiful. But in terms of the narration, I just want to focus a little bit because it took me a little while to be like, what is being said here? Because there's the action that we see, and then there's the narration, which is the classic. It is the fourth wall. It's the narrator, which the old Marvel books used to have, wasn't it? It's like, there you are, true believers. Here's what's happening in the story right now, and it follows that sort of format. So it's telling us kind of what's happening. And as he's running away, there's two boxes where Kurt says he's thinking to himself, "At least if I die, it will be as a man," because he thinks he's done for. And the narration boxes say, ironically, the astonishing leap alone lends doubt to Kurt Wagner's humanity. And his hideous howling, like that of a baying beast, denies it completely.
Yeah.
And that, I just took me a little while to... So what's going on there? From the narration, what is the narrator saying about him? Do you know what I mean?
Well, he kind of like, he does, he's not sure if he is a human, and he doesn't see himself as a man, and...
Yeah.
He sort of...
That's an ongoing issue with him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You believe what people tell you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're trying to drive a stake through his chest at the end.
Yeah, I mean, fuck me. They think he's a vampire and like literally got him pinned down and about to put a stake in his chest.
Yeah, and then they are all stopped by Professor X, who turns up, and he's doing the hard sell right through the first like 10, 15 pages of this, and Kurt is one of the ones that's a little more open to listening to him.
This is so the facial acting Cockrum does in this, I love.
Yeah.
The way that last panel of page 3 where Nightcrawler's looking down at him, I just love that panel.
But also, that's a real that also lends more of like the demonic, like the way that Nightcrawler looks.
Yeah.
Now he's a very attractive man that happens to have blue skin and coiffed hair
and big gunny,
yeah,
and he's sometimes a priest.
Yeah.
And this is a more demonic appearance.
It's
with
a real
heavy blacks,
demonic elf, isn't he? In some,
but it plays into the outsider thing. Yeah. It plays into the point of the X-Men. You know, they are the outsiders, aren't they? They're not part. Which I know there's a lot of love for. I think Pete Dorey and I think Jordan as well said they really like the Grant Morrison approach, Frank Quietly thing. But if I watched that Morrison interview this week, and he's saying he wanted the X-Men to be the norm, which is why he created so many of them. And to me, I like, because of the year I read it, I like them to be the outsiders.
I wanted to be the outsiders. Yeah, that's what they're.
They're misunderstood outsiders.
They're cool, as it were. Like they're outside of it. Like when you become like the mainstream, that everyone's. If everyone's a mutant, it's not fucking special and it's boring. If like Kamala Khan is now like what's it, Harris? She ain't a mutant.
She wishes she was that popular.
So she's a mutant now, so she's even cooler. So.
Yeah. I mean, there is a line later on that sort of talks about like not being a mutant kind of sucks, but I'll get into that.
Oh, okay.
So we go from that, and then what I love about books like this as well is there's characters that we know what they are now, and the big fuss about them.
Oh, mate, we didn't.
And in this, Wolverine's just there.
I'd read Wolverine first in The Incredible Hulk, Night World of Marvel. It's the first place I saw him when in the Hulk appearance, and he's visually very different in this. Yeah. And this almost puts him slightly more heroic. In this, he was more sort of government control, but out there, sort of bestial kind of thing. A bit for me in my mind. And I think Cockrum redrew him. I think there was a bit of an accident. He just thought that's how his helmet went, or that's how his mask went. But when I saw him back then, I didn't know that he had hair that seemed to match his mask.
I know I mean, I know it's cool visually, but it doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
The whole kind of like the character silhouette. He's so known for those kind of the wings. So when he has them off, he always has like, I've got to fucking do that.
Yeah,
he does have a claw that very much looks more like an animalistic claw in its shape.
Yeah, right. So I just thought that was part of his costume when I first saw him. I thought, well, maybe that's part of his costume. But I was fucking a child. But I just the thing is with Marvel and Ween here, they fit so much in, don't they? I've got a feeling that's that maybe Len on that page following.
Yeah. And also Charles Xavier is very much walking around to people saying, by the way,
wheeling around.
You're okay. You're absolutely right, Dan. But he's traveling around and saying, "Oh, by the way, you're a mutant." Like, because a lot of these people
just thought they were superheroes or beasts or something. Yeah. Or saying Bagora.
That fucking right. This is what gets me right. Wolvie gets 2 pages. Nightcrawler gets 3 pages. And what is Banshee? Banshee gets 2 panels, and he just turns up going, "Oh, Bagora."
Banshee looks like a fucking monkey as well. The way they've drawn his face, it's not very kind of.
If you go back and look at his first appearance in the original X-Men series, he looks quite monstrous in that. This is actually make him look a bit more handsome.
He looks a bit like Neanderthal, like the kind of the way like his features. But I see, he's got 2 panels. Bagora, 'tis Professor X himself now. So, Banshee, I must talk with you.
And then cut to in his shabby quarters. He's got shabby quarters.
Oh, they are really shabby, aren't they? Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, so that's the story. Then sure, and I'll help you."
What's he doing in fucking Nashville at the Grand Ole Opry as well?
Let's see, he throws brickwork behind him. You see that on the wall.
Yeah.
So there's a man comes up and goes, "Can I talk to you about something?" He's like, "Yeah, do you want to come back to my flat?" We can have a talk about it.
It's always happened to me. Well, it was happening to me.
Cheers, yeah, so nicely.
Never ends well.
And then we cut to the rest of the page, which begins a longer stretch, and this is the introduction of Storm. And I'd completely forgotten about all of this bit, the way that
this leads into why she was called. Why is she continuously called Goddess? And sometimes you go, well, she just controls the weather, but no, this is why. This is why she was almost considered a goddess. I completely forgot
all this. So when I was reading it, I was like, oh, fucking hell, I forgot about all this.
Yeah, we seem to remember her on the streets of Cairo, don't we, as the main origin? But this is,
She in Kenya, East Africa, there's a stone portal, and men come to it in humility, their voices raised in praise and song and prayer, prayerful supplication, because Aurora, great goddess of the storm, and the voices cry, come and ease our burden. So it's the, we need rain, our crops are dry. It's that, I mean, it's a standard story, and because of her powers, she turns up and absolutely I feel like topless, which I forgot about as well.
Oh yeah,
she's like, "Can you calm down the fucking water? We wanted a bit of rain. Like it's almost like you flooded the lands. Look at the
you've ruined all the crops. yeah. To be fair,
that's probably why she leaves.
that's a bit of an ongoing issue. The sort of topless Aurora, isn't it? There's a burn drawn issue, which I think if you see it in black and white, you can see the.
Yes,
but you can't in the colour. Yeah.
It's also like, is that just like Dave Cochran the way he does kind of Lady's Eyes? But Storm always had slightly kind of like different eyes. They were never quite like
they're sort of cat-like, aren't they?
Yeah, cat-like eyes.
Yeah. And Professor X is essentially saying, you have this, and people adore you, but this is all a fantasy. It's not real because, So he does say, I offer you a world. And people who may fear you hate you, but people who need you I mean, in terms of like the selling, I think he could make it
awful salesperson.
He could make it sound a little bit more enticing.
Yeah.
My favourite one's coming up when he talks to Thunderbird. That's my favourite interaction.
Yeah. I have to say, we were talking about Banshee only getting 2 panels. I had failed to notice that Sunfire only gets 2 panels as well.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's because they'd previously been introduced.
Possibly. This is
in
one
this
thing,
title.
And 2 things. He's an absolute prick through the whole thing.
He always has been, yeah.
Right, okay. And he's one of the characters that I don't know too much about.
Yeah. He doesn't appear that much. I love his costume, though.
So you love his costume.
Osaka, Japan.
I do not like that mask.
I do not like it.
I cannot
it's like a butterfly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
it's like
Professor X.
Either that or someone's thrown a dirty napkin on his face.
He's at Osaka, Japan. 2 older acquaintances share tea in the splendid garden of Shiro Yoshida. And Professor X is getting in the cell saying, look, you should come back to the West. And he said, look, I don't know anything to you, but I owe it to myself. And then he must say, like, wait here a moment, Professor X. And he goes off, transforms into, gets his costume on, comes back out. He goes, perhaps it's time for the world to hear from
and there's
Sunfire.
Kind of Professor X is behind him going, who's he talking to?
So he's just gone off for like 15 minutes and then come back and did the last bit of his little speech.
Then we cut to Siberia. And, of course, Peter Rasputin. Peter Rasputin.
Yeah.
Working on the farm diligently. Absolute chunk of a man that he is.
Yeah.
Until he's told about... he looks up from his work and his eyes grow wide with horror because there's a runaway tractor heading dangerously close to a child. That child... That child, who is his sister...
Ileana.
A minor character that nothing happens to.
Yeah. And he
gets a sword.
And he runs in. I will say he's got a spectacular transformation in this. He runs in.
Brian Vander's favourite character. Shout out to Brian. I think he's a lovely design.
Yeah.
I think more so to me when Byrne takes over. I love the way Byrne takes him on, and I think John Romita Jr. does him justice as well in a lot of his comics.
What I like
those whole fucking
about
metal little limbs with the lines. How many of the Image characters?
Yeah. But what I like about this, especially this version of him, it's not just draw a normal arm and draw lines over it, like we all have.
It's almost a little bit reptilian.
We all have.
Yeah.
But these ones, it's like each individual muscle has got he separated the muscles, like the triceps and everything, and they're all sections. And
not everyone does that, do they? To be fair,
it looks so good. It looks so good. And
the way that you get silver as well in the comic, I'm always amazed at, and it's that combination of grey, black, and white.
Yeah.
And it's just lovely. It just to the eye, because we're programmed to do it, I suppose. But it just comes off as silver. I just really like it.
Yeah. I think either he punches the tractor or it just spontaneously combusts when it hits him, but it's quite expensive. And he's more worried about how his village will pay for the tractor. And then Professor X turns up.
Genuine concern.
Yeah. Professor X turns up, not to tell him, don't worry, I'll give you some money for the tractor, but to say, by the way, son, I need you. How about we head off and I leave your family in debt?
He goes to talk to his mum and dad.
He does. This bit does have a wonderful. I think this one and the Nightcrawler one and the Storm one, to be fair, you get a good insight into who these people are. Which maybe it's the writer having more of an idea what they're going to do with that character in a certain way, or to start them all off. Are they the three characters? No, Nightcrawler. Are they the three characters that hadn't appeared, Tony? Is this Colossus
no, the next one
first?
hasn't. Colossus is first, yeah.
Is Colossus first? Yeah. Storm's first?
Yeah, Thunderbird's first.
And Nightcrawler's...
And Nightcrawler and Thunderbird, yeah.
Okay, so this kind of makes sense that...
they get the longer.
They get, and you get a bit more insight into who they are as sort of people.
Because nobody at the time realised Wolverine was going to be this massive thing.
Massive,
A Thunderbird is there.
I've seen versions of these pages where the word Apache has been crossed out.
Really?
Blacked out. Yeah, redacted. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's
what's the
for sensitivity reasons.
That?
I don't know. I'm not sure if it's for sensitivity reasons or not.
Yeah, because they're
only online when people have been reading through it online. I've seen it's been redacted.
There are some things, obviously, culturally, he is one that sticks out enormously.
And massively important in an American comic book, as far as I'm concerned. I think there should be more.
There's
not enough, really, are there? I know he's later on we get another one, and we get a couple of other characters, but there's not enough. I actually love this. I mean, it is massively on the nose, but I think the way he chases that animal down and contains it is beautifully drawn.
Does he contain it, or does he just fucking kill it? Right, I won't get this because he's running. He's running after a bison, and there is talk in the past. About the Apache. The bison that covered these plains fell like rain before Apache skill and Apache bravery, but never did the bison fall like this in big letters.
He just power drives it into the fucking ground, basically.
Yeah. So normally, like...
I presume to eat, because they don't make any note of like what he's...
Well, that's the thing with it. They always say they use every part of it, don't they? That's
Yeah.
I presume that's the case.
And then this is the thing that caught me off guard. As soon as Professor X turns up, Proudstar is a fucking arsehole to him.
Yeah.
From get-go. Just an absolute, just got an attitude.
How in blazes did a cripple get way out here?
Not that it matters, man.
Easy, mate. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
He goes, you got 5 seconds to vamoose, white eyes. I don't want company, especially yours. And he hasn't said a word.
No.
Professor...
Just there we go, this bloke in a wheelchair who's been out of nowhere.
What I like most is like Professor X's like dopey sales tactic when he says, "Oh, I want you to join with me." He goes, "No, you're going to do that." So that's probably because you're a big pussy. And he's like, "Oh, really? I ain't a pussy. I'll show you. You won't join up."
Yeah, classic Marvel, isn't it? What, you're afraid? I'm not afraid of anything. I'll join the Avengers. Yeah, it's like that, isn't it? Yeah.
Give me a chance, I'll prove that I'm the fucking best.
I'm as good as the next guy. Right. I'm better.
And you do get another wonderful panel of Professor X on the last panel of this page. Nice bit of rendering there. I mean, one of the handles from his chair really does stick out. A little bit.
You know we're doing page by page. You know you said we're not going to do page
I know. And when we get it, because I think
it's important to get the characters.
I think the introduction is the page by page bit, because the rest of it just rattles along.
I'm right in saying we've only got one more reintroduction, haven't we?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But obviously, for the readers, Professor Xavier asks a question. But will you, any of my new X-Men, be equal to the task that lies before you, or will you carry the world down into ruin? And I wonder
that's quite a fucking ending.
And I do wonder, like, should the person who's putting this together be thinking, or am I going to end the world with this? That's a real sort of like what? So
maybe you'd heard about Gail Simone's run. Oops.
Hey.
Immediately from then, we see the X-Men, the new X-Men in their costumes. I did not know, it cleared my mind that, and we should all have trousers like this, formed from unstable molecules which adjust themselves when necessary. Obviously, when we've had a big curry. And if you want to get that sort of fashion,
you meet Dan on the bus.
You get them from a man named Reed Richards.
Oh, nice.
Who's Reed Richards?
Yeah.
That's name is strange.
He's in that movie.
I'm certain you'll learn more of him and his friends later.
I do love the fact that that splash page allows almost you to define characters. So you got Wolverine on his own, you got Colossus, big smile on his face, you got Nightcrawler sort of slightly away crouching, and you've got Banshee with a fucking pipe. Yeah. Like he's a fucking leprechaun. Jesus Christ.
Sunfire on the stairs. Like...
Yeah.
Sunfire looking at Banshee like he's
Who
a
is
piece
this
of
drunk
shit.
bloke talking to me with a pipe?
Yeah.
A Nightcrawler's like crouching on a chaise lounge.
But there is a Sunfire immediately just keeps having to go. Poor old Professor Xavier, sort of like, I'm trying to save the world here. Could you join my team? I really need your help.
Yeah.
And 75% of them are like, tell us why you're a piece of shit.
And then he does really each other's throats. Almost immediately.
Yeah, which is a big dynamic.
Which is a great thing about it. I do like the fact that these are cranked up. They're 11 on the volume scale, aren't they? The character moments.
And then he does a stars in your eyes moment where he introduces fucking Cyclops as if he's like the new guest star.
No. He's the man called Cyclops.
And I'll tell you what, for a man who gets called slim occasionally, he's got a bit of muscle in there.
He's fucking built. He's fucking built.
He's got that. I do like that visor that he gives him in this.
Yeah, the big chunky one. Yeah.
I really prefer that one to the sort of slimline one.
That's the visor I kind of discovered Cyclops. Do you know what I mean? When I was a little kid.
So Scott was sort of like waiting there for got to wait for.
Wait for it he's listening at the door. He's listening at the door.
Yeah,
probably some bloke was smoking a pipe in there. What's going on? He's going,
God, they're having a go at Charles there. Cool,
some bloke smells a brimstone. What's going on in there?
But immediately, as soon as Cyclops turns up, he essentially just if the vibe was we're going to be a new team. This is great. Feeling really good about this. Cyclops immediately turns up and just say everything's shit. The rest of my team have disappeared.
You're all bastards. Yeah. Can I just say as well do you think we'd really get away with having an indigenous person, a Native American, with fucking feathers in their costume?
Oh, mate.
Do you know? Can you see that?
Yeah.
But you design these outfits, Professor X. Yeah.
Yeah, you give me feathers.
Got a few problems.
Yeah. So we get a flashback then about Cerebro, the mutant detector. It's true. It's through this mechanism that we discovered all of you and lost my closest friends. Well, don't stand fucking too close.
And also,
for God's
sake. why Colossus hasn't got any trousers? He's just in his pants. I suppose that's a Cerebro fucking decision as well. Everyone else has got trousers.
So he sort of tells the backstory of them going off to the signal alarm goes off. So the original X-Men, Angel, Cyclops, Marvel Girl or Jean Grey, Iceman, Havoc, Polaris
and Beast,
and Beast, and they go off to sort of like investigate this signal.
There was a split second though that I got slightly confused reading it, probably because I was having so much fun. I was reading it at quite a pace. When it cuts back to what happened originally with the X-Men before, and because I read this on its own, for a split second I thought, the artist has fucked up his costume there, Cyclops' costume, because his costume, I know he got the new visor and he got.
But it's different in the flashback, isn't it?
Slightly bigger boots, but it's a thinner. There isn't a massive change between the old Cyclops and the new Cyclops. So it just took me a moment before I was like, because it's so much thinner. It's so much thinner. Obviously, it makes sense completely in the comic, but that just caught me for a little bit. I was like,
what? I agree. I actually like that they did it. I like they did it. It harks back to the. Yeah.
They go to Krakoa, didn't they? Which is never mentioned again in.
It's never ever been mentioned again. They should bring it back. I think they should totally bring it back.
Fucking age now.
Yeah, the age of Krakoa.
Yeah. Bad stuff happens. The X-Men, obviously, we see the important stuff was when they got introduced. These major characters got introduced. The X-Men get stolen, or they disappear. Who knows what's happened to them? Cyclops doesn't know what's going on. His clothes are ragged, and his firm, muscular.
His eyes
form.
are monstrous.
His eyes are monstrous, but I tell you what, though, they're normal and powerless, Dan.
Yeah.
They're shit.
If you call them normal, sort of like black and white spots among these blazing red.
Yeah. Although I love the fact he goes, they're normal, powerless. However hard I try, I can't project my optic blast. Did you hear me, world? I can't. It's like,
that's the right comment. That's still a hangover from standing there.
Fucking great. Did you hear me, world? I want that on a t-shirt.
I mean, you got to imagine, you got to realise that in '75, the Marvel universe was only in its teens at this point. I love it for those little touches.
Yeah, it absolutely makes it. It's
So Cyclops.
So he goes back to Professor X, doesn't he? And basically, his optic blasts are no longer working.
But then they start
flaring up,
more powerful than ever.
Hence the revised kind of headpiece, eyepiece he wears, which is a lot chunkier and sort of. That is great.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah. The one thing that this issue doesn't have, and obviously it's interesting because it's something that was built in later, and Tony as being the encyclopedia, the ex-cyclopedia, some would say. There is no, considering this friction between so many characters, and that's what I like about seeing that they're thrown together. They are not a family. They are not, from day one all chummy and supporting each other. They are different people with different motives and reasons for being there, and some of them are just not nice people either.
No, Sunfire's an arsehole.
And I think in some ways this also solidifies the fact that Wolverine was something to be discovered later, and he is, like I think you said it's perfect, Tony, he's more of a superhero kind of archetype kind of thing.
He certainly looks more like that in this issue. Yeah.
And he has no real friction with Cyclops. That was something that.
Yeah, I mean,
you could argue that became such a major thing, didn't it?
Yeah, and it's changed massively due to the presence of Hugh Jackman, really. But I'll always argue that Wolverine is the runt. He's the one who dreamed of one day being with Jean because she was with the handsome Scott. Yeah. Maybe that's where it comes from. Maybe that's where it begins to come from. It's hard to remember, but I suspect something to do with the triangle.
Now, I don't get this next bit. Tony, feel free to spoil the next couple of issues or whatever happens, because Sunfire tells them all to go fuck themselves, and he's not going to do it. Half a page later, he's flying alongside the jet. He's changed his mind. Is that ever explained? Is that just him being a bellend for the sake of it?
I can't remember because he is in and out of the team so much.
Okay.
He doesn't make it to the Dark Phoenix saga. No. He comes back a bit later. Yeah. He's rarely seen these days.
Yeah, he says my reasons are my own, nobody's business but my own, and you do well to remember that.
Yeah, it's a bit all over the place, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. Perhaps it's one of those things like we're going to do something with this character, but then it never really. Yeah.
Interesting. In the colouring of your version, Tony, you said Colossus is just wearing pants.
Yeah.
In this digital version, he's got blue thighs.
Blue thighs.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that on a Salt Force page?
That's all of it.
I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Can you sort of see it on mine, T? Oh, it's terrible.
On the main, on the big panel, he's got.
Blue. On the big panel, he's got. In this one, you can see he's got.
Stars, they've coloured them blue.
Yeah. I must dig out my original copy then. Have a look, because I suspect yours is more like it, because this has been recoloured.
Right.
Yeah.
And
they land down on Krakoa. They've all got their own individual ways of doing it. God damn it, Banshee is ugly, isn't he?
Mate, do yourself a favour and go back while we're talking now and just Google X-Men 28, and you'll see the cover. Just look at the cover to X-Men 28, and you'll see how they treat him in that, because it's very different. It's almost like he is a Banshee of the legend, as opposed to the.
Of course, he's like a monster.
Oh, yeah, got it, yeah.
Yeah, it looks more like a monster than he.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And in one panel with Wolverine, he looks like someone's nan.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Yeah. Although, to be fair, he has got my hair.
And it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Brilliant. So they all there's a wonderful way of showing how they would work together, but they don't know how each other's powers work. So Colossus jumps out of the plane and Storm thinks he's going to kill himself. Whereas he was fully probably intending to turn into his metal form as soon as he landed.
Yeah.
And things kick off as soon as the Stratojet disappears soon after. We get quite a few moments with Thunderbird and Cyclops.
Yeah, he doesn't get many moments, Thunderbird, if you know anything about the next few issues.
The very island itself seems rising.
You get the old Macroterra, giant crabs attack, don't they? Crabs of the Blood Moon attack.
You got to love it when crabs get involved.
Yeah.
Although I did think I liked the page where Storm and Colossus worked together. I thought that was really good, rather than lots of people sort of arguing and like it not working.
Okay.
Immediately, it's sort of like
we get the teleportation from Banshee, by the way, Dan. I'd forgotten about that.
Nightcrawler, you mean?
Yeah,
Sorry, Nightcrawler. Yeah,
they worked that in. So rather than
so it wasn't used as a vehicle to get him out of being killed in the first few pages, but they've remembered it here.
So everything about this island, there's flying birds, giant crabs, the very earth itself is trying to attack them. Everything's trying to kill this strange new team until they reach this sort of old temple. And, the door's sealed tight and it's about a foot thick. And pretty much, I think everyone attacks it at once. It just absolutely batters it. They find the original X-Men who are being used like, they're just strung up and being fed on.
Now, this something scratching at the back of my brain here, but I don't think the Beast was in the team then. So the Beast isn't there, is he?
No.
Is that because he had his own solo?
Has he gone over to the Avengers by then?
Yeah, might have done by then. Or had he? No, I don't think he had.
I'm sure they mentioned something about that, didn't they?
Right.
In the book, he was saying, he was like, he's finished his schooling or something and he's gone on.
Right, yeah, because he'd gone off to do something. Yeah, he had like a sort of short-lived solo thing. Yeah. And
Havoc and Polaris are part of the team.
Yeah, and then slightly after this, we get the Champions series, which was like 20 issues or something, and Iceman and Angel had left the X-Men to go and join the Champions.
Here's hot take
they rescued
of the
him,
week.
Didn't they?
Here's my hot take of the week. I have never liked that Havoc costume.
Oh man, I love that Havoc costume.
I really like. I'm not mad on that headpiece.
The head bit,
the black body with the white bits.
The white, yeah.
I'd invite you to look at the Neil Adams intro of that power, then, because wait till you see the way Neil Adams shows those rings coming out.
Yeah, that's great.
It's fucking amazing. Yeah, he's one of my favourite characters, Havoc. Yeah. I have to say. And when they try and put him in sort of shoulder pads and gilets and stuff, I'm like, nah, I don't like that.
They rescue them from the inside of all these kind of like mouthpieces, sucking on them, drawing them off, and Cyclops like
drawing them off. Notice he said that.
Yeah. He said, quickly, carry whoever's closest to you. So, by the way, I've got Jean Grey already. So,
I'm all over that. I'm all over the redhead. Leave it alone, son.
Just whoever's closest. Yeah, but you have to get right to the back to get her. Don't matter.
Yeah. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm holding it.
But Cyclops doesn't realise until Angel says to him, "You prick! Why did you come back for?" Because it was all a ruse by this.
The trap.
The mutant is the island itself. And to be fair, that's an awesome panel where the island's rising up and then you see this giant monster. I immediately thought giant, I actually thought a man thing. Now,
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, who
I see that.
Now, in terms of man thing, when and where was he created and by who?
Isn't it Bernie Wrightson? No, I'm thinking it's Swamp Thing. Fucking hell. It's, is it? Oh my God. Is it Gerber? I can't remember now. I can't remember who did it. Was it, I'm going to flip this up now, aren't I? Like my brain doesn't work anymore.
Created by writer Stan. This is just Wikipedia, which never lies.
Yeah.
Created by writer Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, and Jerry Conway, and artist Gray Morrow.
Oh, of course. Okay.
First appeared in Savage Tales #1. So there you
Brilliant
go.
Character. One of my favourites.
But yeah, there is there's some definite sort of reminiscent design choices between that.
Yes, I think the red eyes and the sort of the drooping thing over the top of the eyes that comes down is what does it, isn't it? But then, of course, Man-Thing doesn't speak, does he? So we don't get those sort of teeth opening mouth stuff.
So we learned that basically the island had caught the X-Men and was feeding off them, growing hungry, but it let Cyclops go and get some more people to bring back, which the moron did. I say that, but
also Professor X.
I'm a big fan of Cyclops. But then again, Professor X didn't know what had happened, had he? Because he only
what she says we used the legless one who gathered you all together at the command of a voice.
Legless one.
That's
off.
So basically, like Krakoa could reach out and control Professor X.
What's your thoughts on the Angel costume, the blue and white? Do you like it or not?
I don't mind. I'm not sure about the halo ring in the middle.
Right.
Was it red and white to begin with?
Originally it was, but before he even joined the X-Men, he was kind of at his own. They go back to a little solo thing before him.
Yeah.
And he had a little gun and everything when he was...
I think I prefer the red and white purely because the blue and white, because Cyclops is blue, there's just a mixture of colours then. Do you know what I mean?
Does he go to the red and white for the champions? I think he might.
I can't remember
off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But they're all kind of like wailing on Krakoa, aren't they? And it's like not really having any effect whatsoever.
Luckily, we got Chris Claremont, the pretend British person, to come up with the idea of sending it into space. Yeah.
But then they do some really fucked up thing where the power of the Earth's crust, like blasting down through the ocean and pulling up the very molten magma of the Earth itself. So that's quite a fucking.
That's like
thing.
Superman. That's like Superman pulls Metropolis across the planet or something. Or in 1978, Superman flies the wrong way around the Earth to turn back time. It's a bit of one of those ideas.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if you kind of like cracked a hole straight through the crust of the Earth down to the core
and threw something into space,
that would have severe ramifications.
Catastrophic. Yeah.
But this is comics, so it's all good.
Yeah,
and then blast the island up to space, and they sort of like use their powers together to survive it by making like a giant ice raft, which they make airtight so it doesn't swallow them in the sea.
Yeah, there's a lot of this stuff that towards the end, there's so many it's wonderful effects with the the water and everything going on with the the geography and the
those
space.
last couple of pages, fucking go for it. There's so much stuff going on.
But I
actually think you can see some real Neil Adams. Neil Adams is one of the greatest influences in comics. I think you can see a bit of that going on, really.
But I also think because of that action, the last part of it is just completely rushed to the point of
it does feel a bit right.
Because we've got so much focus on here's a new team, here's these new people, they were working together, and they're individuals like working together as teams, as partners, as doing this, that, and the other. Here's some old X-Men, and then right at the end, before the last bit,
what we're going to do, yeah,
and it's just a lot of one of the last panels is focused on Angel in the foreground. And just a couple of the new guys just sat in the background, like, what?
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what we were saying about it being about the characters more than the monster of the week, and I think they kind of let it run away a bit with the character stuff, don't they? In this, quite a bit.
Yeah. Although it's a little bit harsh that Angel's like, sorry, we don't have seats for all of you, but this plane wasn't designed to carry so many mutants.
Yeah, so which is a big thing, isn't it? Now we've got the whole who stays, who goes thing that goes on.
We get
a bit of that in issue 100, and yeah.
It's like that's fucking charming, isn't it? You can go down there with the luggage.
Call an Uber.
Yeah. So basically, the new team have turned up, and I mean they did also work together with the original X-Men.
Yeah.
To beat it. So
As soon as I finished this, I was like, I want to read the next one now.
Yeah, that's good.
I wanted to read more.
Yeah,
that was going to be one of my questions. Is how did you guys feel about it? I was trying to dig out.
Mate, I fucking loved it. I was so on board. I was kind of a bit disappointed when it ended, to be honest.
Yeah,
because when he had the 64 pages at the top and we got like 330, I was like, oh.
What's the rest of the pages then in it?
Must be.
Why does it say 64?
A backup for something. Perhaps.
Reprint.
Right, maybe someone got some of those design pages in there. Is it the Cockrum stuff or?
Maybe. It's not on it.
I mean, the digital literally is just the story. Just the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's probably Marvel. They like giving value for money, so it's only £1.50 because you only get.
I will say I've got various omnibuses and stuff of X-Men and essentials and collections and stuff. If you can get an omnibus that runs from Giant Size through to the end of the Dark Phoenix saga. In fact, it goes all the way through to that Christmas issue that we read, with the Alien ripoff.
Yeah.
If you can get all from the first Cockrum through to the end of Byrne and Austin, I think that's a brilliant read. I would almost say that's all the X-Men you ever need in your life.
Yeah.
Is that? I think it's just so well done. It's my favourite period of X-Men.
I didn't realise I had it, and I'm going to probably, like Dan says, I'm going to get stuck into it now. Ages ago.
You get the Dark Phoenix saga, mate. You will appreciate how great the Dark Phoenix saga. You also appreciate how short it is, because it makes it sound like these days the Dark Phoenix saga would be 50 issues or something. Yeah. It's not that.
I got the Marvel Masterworks volume.
Oh, okay. And so what are the issues?
By Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum with Len Wein. I don't know how many issues in it. It's 188 pages. Collecting Giant Size X-Men #1 and the X-Men numbers 94 to 100.
Oh, it's not that much then. So that's still Cockrum.
So 94.
It'd be beyond 100, surely, isn't it?
Maybe not. I mean, it's quite a.
Okay.
I'm just skipping through now, Vamp, while I find out if there was something after.
Yeah, because what happens with Cockrum does the X-Men, Byrne takes over, and it really becomes massive then. And then Cockrum comes back on when Byrne leaves. When Byrne goes off to do, I suppose, Fantastic Four and Alpha Flight, then Cockrum comes on for about another 10 issues or stuff. And there's some really interesting stuff. And they bring back Havoc and Polaris during that. Yeah. They almost have like a new team.
There must have been like a reprint or something in the back or something, because this Masterwork
you might get the classic. Do you get classic X-Men or something like that? Because that adds a little bit more to the story. I don't know if you remember classic X-Men. So when X-Men was really selling big guns, they got classic X-Men, which reprinted the original Uncanny run, so Giant Size onwards. And in the back, they put little backups that were new stories.
Okay.
So the us X-Men addicts had to buy it just for those extra 5 pages in the back,
Yeah.
They got you.
But it's maybe 50 years, but my word, how
and they're still trying to repeat that success. They're still trying to repeat that equation.
Yeah.
It's
But they had a universe to expand now. The problem that there is, the universe has already expanded.
Too far.
I mean? It's too far. Where can it go?
Yeah.
Whereas obviously they were just laying the track for so much to come afterwards.
It kind of bugs me in the fact that like whenever there's a new series, there always seems to be introducing more characters. It's like if the X-Men universe doesn't need more things, it's more characters. Yeah. There's so many characters. Get one and like explore it and pull it apart and. Well,
interestingly, I hadn't warned you that we could create our own X-Men team. Maybe that's something we can do in the future. But I did say to you, let's do our top 3 X-Men.
Yes, yeah.
So maybe we'll lead into that then.
And a little a little bonus. Yes, let's just quickly run through it. Okay.
Who wants to go first?
So, top X-Men.
I've got so many I like.
Okay.
It's really
and it's.
I'm not saying they've got to be all on the same team. Just favourites.
Yeah, just favourites. Yeah. Number 1 for me. My number 1 pick, Colossus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Always has been. He's my boy. I've just always I think without even reading the comics when I was a kid, he just looked really, really cool.
Well, he's almost designed to be the honest, naive friend to the reader, isn't he? In a way. Yeah. I mean, they all are designed that way. You've got the outsider,
the classic gentle giant.
Yeah.
I know they've written so many different sort of so much to him in some sort of ways. But
I'm saying Wolverine. It's my favourite when done right. Wolverine in the sewers is still one up there for me. Still one of the greatest moments ever.
It's like if I have Wolverine, got to have like Cyclops in there because the interplay between the two. Or you could have Wolverine and Colossus, Wolverine and Nightcrawler because of or Wolverine and Kitty Pryde because of the
Well, Cyclops is my number 2. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Dan?
I would have gone for any of those ones I just picked there because of Wolverine and that character. I really like Wolverine and Cyclops as well.
Right.
I'm not copying you. That's
no. Okay, I'll jump in with my second one then. Rogue.
Oh, that's a bit out left field.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of the things, especially with X-Men. X-Men is a drug. You always remember the time that sort of hits you, I think, and that's why a lot of this is my favourite X-Men. It's probably due to when you first came into it and how this character was introduced to you. And of course, when it really hit my veins, it was around the time of Jim Lee the Savage Land Rogue, which then became into the X-Men, you know, and the stories that she was doing with that. I didn't really know Rogue before then, and she was put front and center, which is a brilliant way to get you to know a character and suddenly be like, "What's this person all about?" You know.
I first saw her in the Avengers. That's where
because she was a villain. She was a villain to start with.
Yeah. My least favourite X-Men of all time is Gambit. I hate him. I can't stand him.
Okay. I
does
really
my
like
nutting.
I really like him, but I think they overdid him and watered him down. I think he could be really, really.
Yeah.
But
well,
number 3, Tony. What's your number?
My number 3, bit left field. This one, although I've got a niche one, which we're going to go into in a minute, and I'll explain it. My third favourite one is Cannonball. Yeah. So when we live in the X world now, where everyone has to have a fucking Amiga level power, they're either like immortal or they're made of fucking computers with a technovirus, or they're from the future, or they've got multiple powers. Back when I was reading the early, so this is pre-Sienkiewicz, New Mutants, he was a genuine hick kid, didn't know what he's doing, trying his best, and there's this moment where he manages to save a kid. I think it was a fire or the kid falls or something, he couldn't control his powers because he wasn't there, but he managed just to get this kid safely to the ground. And to me, that's the greatest thing I want to see off one of these characters. I don't care if you're stopping the witch fucking fleet of technovirus from planet blah. I just want to see you being a human being and not understanding how different you are because of these powers. And that was in New Mutants, and I loved that first initial team. And people hate me for this, but I actually wish Sienkiewicz had never gone on it, because his art was wonderful, but it was a comic about a bunch of kids, and it should have stayed that.
Yeah,
that's a terrible thing to say. I know everyone hate me for that, but
no, fair enough.
I think Sienkiewicz, I love his art, and I think he's very accomplished. But up till then, with Bob McLeod and Selby Seamer and these sort of people, it was just about kids in this academy trying to cope with their powers, and okay.
I think I was trying to think of other ones, but I think my third one is Wolverine. I think.
Okay.
And I say that as
you can't deny how great he is.
No. I say that as someone that just doesn't want to see the character anymore. But when I was a kid, the brown and tan Wolverine is my Wolverine. That's just.
I prefer him as like a B character.
Yeah.
Like he's not the main.
Yeah.
He's the badass we don't know anything about, and he's neither of those things anymore. So that's how I feel. I just think. Yeah.
I quite like the way that Whedon did him in his little run. You know, when he was just kind of like.
Oh yeah, he was just part of the team, like
I quite like. You said about a niche one that sort of on the side, didn't you mention? I like.
Yeah, we're going to do that as the next one. So
who's your number?
Who's your third one?
Who's your third one before the niche one?
I'd pick any from the late 80s, 90s. I honestly have such a hard time picking out an X-Men character over the others, because I see them so much as a group and a unit that I have a hard time picking.
And if you think about it too much, it expands too much. Do you know what I mean? Because I was trying to think X-Men. One of my favourite series is Excalibur, so I put Excalibur in a different box over there. Box. Otherwise, this list could be different. Do you know what I mean?
I almost gave you favourite villain, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, they're all in the X-Men now.
Yeah.
About you can come up with Sentinels,
Yeah.
Quite like them. Okay, so Dan, should we go to niche then? Let's do niche.
Yeah.
Let Dan off the go on then.
My niche is definitely Madrox the Multiple Man.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Fucking
that X Factor run is so good.
Yeah, the Peter David stuff is great.
Yeah, gold.
Yeah. Never really got Strong Guy, kind of.
No, I didn't really understand Strong Guy.
No.
The duplicitousness that comes out in the X Factor run, I liked.
Yeah. He always reminded me of is it Ranks Zero or whatever?
Yeah, Rank Xerox. Yeah.
I always
that's true. Actually, I never thought of that.
Copied the fucking designer for that one.
My niche random one is Kane.
Okay.
First introducing. Well, X-Force 2.
I thought you might say Maverick, to be fair.
See, Maverick's...
I think you mentioned Maverick before.
I fucking love Maverick as well, but I was obsessed with Kane. at some point, like just fucking drawing him, and this was the life, obviously the life of Deadpool versus Kane sort of fight and stuff. And he was
he the one with the tiny red jacket?
Yeah, the tiny red jacket, and he could fire his hands. He had like cybernetic hands and stuff like that.
That's fucking Garrison Kane.
Yeah, and I thought he was cool. And then later on, when he got a slight redesign and he was actually given boots and stuff, he looked even cooler. Garrison Kane, I just really fucking liked. And I remember that when the X-Men figures, when they brought out those lines, he had a really cool figure. I was like, oh yeah, but my boys just never got any. It's like he's true niche because no one's ever given a fuck. Do you know what I mean? To the point of like they're just in the background eventually, and then just written off something. He was used pretty well in the initial Deadpool limited series. That Nicieza and Madureira and don't think Ed McGuinness, no, Ian Churchill. Those two series, he was used quite a lot in there, and I was really into that. So it was like, oh, cool. And then just fell off. He was in Cable for a bit, I think, for a long time. And then, yeah, then just now no one gives a shit about him. Yeah. What about you, Tony?
Well, let me see if you know the name. Calvin Rankin.
No.
Who's that?
Is he gonna be a really weird one?
This is my favourite niche character, Mimic.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked the appearance in the original run. So when they were the normal, the original sort of teenagers at college, and then I got where he first appeared in issue 19, which I own, which is a really lovely cover as well. And then he appeared in the Exiles, which really brought him home for me. And he really sort of stood up and became.
Yeah, they didn't do much with him until like the Exiles, really.
Not really, no. And he's quite flawed in the original run. He's kind of trying to take advantage, trying to get on the team, stealing powers and stuff like that. And then in the Exiles, he sort of takes a step forward and becomes a leader. And there's that gladiatorial issue where he has to fight in the as a superhero in the gladiator wars. And yeah, I really liked him. And he's not been used properly since, I don't think. Yeah, really, really good character and one of my favourites. I got one of those Bowen busks of him. Those like little statues. Nice. I've got a little shelf up there just full of Bowen busks.
Again, another character they could fucking dig down into.
Yeah. Like, don't say that. Some twat will do it.
Yeah. And then
I just want them to leave him alone at the moment.
I tell you what, he'll use his powers to mimic a pop star's talent to go on The Voice. Anyway,
well, funny enough, there's the new series. I saw this series come up. I thought, oh, so pretty all of this, and it's contest. And I thought, oh, it's Contest of Champions, but the X-Men. No, it's Dazzler going into a contest of singing. And Madrox.
How does that work in a comic?
I don't know. Madrox is a roadie because obviously he can multiply himself and move things around for her.
I mean, that's quite a funny idea,
but
it's a poster. Is what it is. Yeah.
If I was going to be in charge of editorial at DC or Marvel, I'd be like, here's a diktat going down. You cannot have the characters sitting around in a coffee shop talking about stuff. You got to fucking do something else for that. If there's an exposition scene, do anything else apart from sitting around having a fucking coffee.
Go back. That's why people used to talk during fights.
Yeah.
That's why he's having like that. Yeah.
Just think of any other fucking way you can express a story, but like. Not that.
But if you want to see an expressive story, Giant Size X-Men.
Man.
Yeah, you find a copy of it. It's been reprinted a million times.
Who knows what classic we will cover next time on Classic Comics Corner. Actually, I don't know why I'm singing it. I'll probably put the music behind it.
Just bust the music in.
So, on with the show. Do we have any shout-outs this week? We always do. Yes. What are the shout-outs, gents?
I think I've only got the one. Just shout out to Craig Shields. He's just updated about a week ago, updated the ACP Recommends. Go to acprecommends.com and you can see what we're talking about. Yeah, nice. Always great.
Nice.
Yeah. Cheers, Craig.
What about you, Dan?
The big shout out I've got, The Dry Cleaner, an electrifying tale of vengeance, organised crime and ninjas. That's currently crowdfunding from the good people at To Be Honest Comics. They've got 19 or 18 days to go if you listen to this on Monday. Drawn and written by our friend Kieron Squires. He's doing a lot of fucking work, Kieron. He's honestly got so many books on the go or out there. I saw some videos from over the weekend at AwesomeCon, and the Green Archer boys are showing off a new comic called Cryptid Hacker Force, which he drew. I lettered and the Lisker boys wrote. You can pick that up from them. I'm sure you'll be able to get it on their site afterwards. But yeah, go check out the Dry Cleaner, which is on crowdfunding now on Kickstarter. On the side to that, the previous comic, Kill the Bride, that's now been uploaded to Global Comics, so you can go and check that out and read that if you've got a Global Comics subscription. Nice. So do check that out. Also, another comic that Kieron's drawn, Supershow, the comic, issue 7, The Plot Thickens. El Super Hombre goes face to face with Snake Pit after piercing together their grim past, which is like a wrestling comic, which seems to have its own little community, readers going absolutely fucking nuts for that. That's got, how long have we got on that? Another 17 days to go, so that's ticking along nicely. We've obviously, I'm going to give the Lawless shout out, which is the 24th to 25th May 2025, Doubletree by Hilton Hotel, Bristol, B51 6NJ. We've got the High Vis Comic Con, Saturday 21st of June 2025, Kings Heath, Birmingham, UK. Do search for the High Vis Festival and that pop up. And you've already mentioned ACP Recommends.
Nice.
One thing we're going to look into, lastly, is the panels app. I don't know if anyone uses panels on their tablet. So essentially, if you've got a load of PDFs of your comics sitting on like Dropbox or a drive, you can upload it to panels, and it's like a comic reader. Does PDFs and CBR files. They've just announced that you're going to be able to buy small press and indie comics through their platform.
Yes.
So I don't know what the details of that, but that sounds very interesting.
Yeah,
because
we'll find out more about that, and then
get back to you.
Another shout out, this one to our pal Eamon Clark.
Well done.
Who did the London Landmarks half marathon this weekend. He's only just done it, so he's probably
it's probably knackered by now.
He's probably absolutely knackered, but congratulations and well done. Yeah. He's probably listening to us while he's recovering. Yeah. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Thinking about that. And Tony, did you say you had one more?
No, I'm all right.
No.
Yeah.
Fuck everyone else. On with the show and on with comics. We got some comics to recommend before we send you on your way.
I just forgot to shout. Aaron Rackley did a marathon or a half marathon today as well.
He did the Brighton, didn't he?
Yeah, he did the Brighton one. Yeah, so
I donated that one as well.
All our boys doing well. Amazing.
I'll tell you what, man. If you're feeling lethargic or a little bit blue, go out for a run. I'll tell you now.
Yeah,
best thing in the world. Yeah,
best thing in the world.
Even a walk, man. Get out for a walk.
Other than boobs.
Yeah.
There you go. Put that on a t-shirt.
Walking.
We're just nothing but merch ideas this week. And now we're nothing but
buy
comics.
Merch. Redbubble. ACP gear.
Oh yeah, we haven't pumped that for a while, have we? ACP gear and Redbubble. Go and buy our t-shirts.
Yeah.
I haven't pinned that in about 7 days.
No. Yeah. It must have been about a week. And it's been a week since we recommended some comics. So Tony, kick us off.
Yeah.
My first one is the one I've been waiting for a while now, Mandala. We couldn't decide how to say it earlier. By Andy Barron, our buddy Andy. This is the next graphic novel in the saga, More Strange and Wordless Comics. This time, as I think who are his regular publisher now is Mansion Press, the French publisher, very wisely publishing.
You've been a champion of this chap for a long time. I remember
since we started
one of the early shows. And
he's been on, and I used to meet him regularly at LCAF. He always seemed to be at the table next to us at LCAF. Always great company. This one is edited by Julie Huber. Soft cover, 22 pages, 208. Sorry, £22, 208 pages, all in colour. Came with one of those nice mini prints, which is about the same size. It's the cover, but the same size. There is another version of this. You can get a limited edition with 28 exclusive extra pages for £34. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know, because I must have missed that. So I'm sort of tempted. I'm a Barron completionist. I'm not sure whether I order that.
Is it comic or is it like back matter? Does it say?
I think no. It says exclusive pages, so I'm guessing it's extra comic. Anyone for people who haven't seen Andy's style, it's very cartoony. It's almost always completely wordless. When we had him on, so inside the French flap, I just like saying French flap, is a little pull quote, trippy as hell, from Jim Woodring. And as we know, I'm a fan of Woodring's. And me and Andy had a bit of a sort of, we went off on one. Do you remember talking about our Woodring love? And Andy said he had a couple of original pages. So, cool, dear, nice one, Andy. But you can see there's somewhere a line between the two creators, if you get me with that. Yeah. For those that haven't seen it, it's very sort of adult 70s animation in a way. It's very Metal Hurlant. It's like a colourful dose of underground. It is adult, so don't confuse it with not being it. But there's a little bit of the Vaughn Bodie in it somewhere. You ever seen Wizards by Ralph Bakshi?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that there as well, I think. Bit of Woodring. I'm also going to say Arthur Schopenhauer and Friedrich Nietzsche, and I'll get onto that in a minute, because if you go to the Mansion House Press site, it speaks of a philosophical edge to this. And once you've read it and someone says to you, there's a bit philosophical, you go, oh yeah, right, I get you. So in fact, the site describes it as dark fantasy meets philosophical storytelling. And you can draw a lot from this comic. That's wrong. It gets you thinking what it means, as everything good should, but you can also enjoy it by reading through this wonderful weirdness of the pages that you get. It is, as always, everything that Andy does, difficult to describe. So it plays off on a sort of desolate, desert, alien landscape of a kind, with strange creatures, some of whom are sort of reasonably close to being humanoid and some of them that aren't. There's a character, so it gives you a little name check for all the characters on the French flaps. And you get P, who at least, he looks like a P with arms and legs and big eyes and a massive mouth. And he, there's like a frog-like quality to him almost. You see what I mean? He's the main character in the one I sent you. Who's the faceless, I'm going to say mostly female, biologically female-shaped character. You got who is the male, who's got the tied-on nose, and you got Bubs, and these are little, almost like wizard-hatted, mushroom-hatted, little weird creatures who run around in groups across the landscape. And the book opens with meditating, and P creeps up on him and steals his nose. So that's that. I'm not sure if Andy's influenced by that old joke, the old look Dad used to say to you, didn't he? Your dad used to say, I've nicked your nose, I've nicked your nose, look, with his thumb. And he steals his nose, but this causes to just it just devastates him. He physically just degrades in front of you, becomes shriveled, and he begins to die, and P heads off, and he puts nose on, and he gets buff, and he starts being powerful, because quite a buff geezer, and P sort of grows, and P experiments with his strength, his new power, and he breaks the face of this lizard creature he comes up to. In fact, he punches all the way through his head. And then who is the biologically female character, finds and tries to get help, and she uses the Bubs in little groups to sort of help carry him, and P is off being a bastard. And it's gorgeous. I mean, it has all the values of a sort of psychedelic, strange and weird and 70s vibed morality tale, I suppose, is the way you could put it. It's the old story, isn't it? Kafka did it. You simplify the characters and the setting, and you get more of a sort of philosophical, political, sociological sort of element to it. And in a way, he's doing that. It allows you to have a complex theoretical situation as opposed to just an interpersonal thing. And the changing characters and situation shows a lot of things. It shows, I've written a little list of growth, aging and learning, evolution. I'm going to say there's a touch of the environmentalism, but that might just be me reading into it. It shows the richness and diverse world of and Pat and I would say, Andy's parrot saying to us, look, we've got this rich world here. This is happening. Look what we're doing in our sort of world. But don't read this thinking it's sort of heavily political. It's not. It's not in any way. It's just me probably reading a lot into it. But it is just because it's wordless. I love these wordless books. You can just fucking race through it, like just watching it happen on the page. It's moving between panels for you, and just live in the just fucking weirdness of the heroes and villains and the story. And it makes sort of just weird logical sense. There's this moment that spoilers, so fast forward, you don't hear this, but a little spoiler coming up. So gets revived by sucking on the teat of a gold nippled griffin.
We've all
But
been there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's no normal logic to it, but logically within the story, it makes a lot of sense. There's he throws in every so often, and it reads as a panel to panel graphic novel, as it were. Lots of panels on a page, lots of panels on a page, a few panels on a page. But every so often, he throws in that double page, full bleed spread. I sent you one of them. It's just you go fucking hell. That's
Yeah.
like full on master. I'm in a little group for all the tribute creators, and we're like, fuck, look at this. This is great. And there's a weird spirituality, one might even say quasi-religious element to it, with this sort of nipple-breasted, six-teated griffin fucking creature that they all pay homage to, and it's there's a little, and I know we talked about Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, but there's a little bit of the Man and Superman, thus spake Zarathustra. There's that sort of thing going on it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a moment where flies up above the earth and he looks down on it, and you get that Superman moment almost.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, really good. So go to Mansion Press, go to mansionpress.com. You can find it. You can go to Instagram Comics, OM Comics, at OM Comics, or you can go to the Mansion Press at the Mansion Press and find yourself a copy. Just go and get anything by Andy. I think you're going to. It's a lovely little palate cleanser reading about people arguing in comics that we've just done. But you want a little palate cleanser between crap dialogue and people arguing, then go and read an Andy Barron comic, and Mandala is the newest one. There you go.
Nice. Dan, what have you got?
I read a few comics this week.
You probably wrote a few as well, Dan. You don't stop.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah.
I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but someone's have to do it. I've been working on this, working on the script for Viper 3, and it's fucking great. It's coming together so well. I'm going to be working on that, like, hopefully putting it out the later part of this year. I did say last year, but it will be this year because it's
Cool. Can't wait to see it, mate.
it's good. I'm going to have to cut jokes out because, like, I just can't fit them in. But anyway, enough about that book and on to another book. This is from AWA Camgill. I know you've read this already, Tony.
Yeah,
I
put a
think
little
couple
write
of
up on
people-
the site for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the synopsis being, I read this on Global. It's in Camgill, Danny is an independent, loves to party, and makes a whole lot of money. Kyoko, Danny's online alter ego, is obedient, exotic, and a walking stereotype that caters to her customers' basest fantasies. When Kyoko's most ardent followers start to send her increasingly threatening messages, Danny's two lives become dangerously intertwined. To turn the tables on a relentless stalker who seems to know everything about her, Danny must confront her personal demons and rediscover who she is and what she's capable of doing. Rating mature. There's you got the whole kind of, obviously with the title Camgill. There's the main thrust of the story, which is like the stalker kind of like going after and seeming to know whatever she did. I found that part of the story a lot less interesting than every other aspect of it.
Yeah, I did
So like
too.
the idea of kind of like a character and they're having to live this kind of life and kind of reconcile with the fact that what they're doing they're not kind of like anymore. I find that kind of a bit more of a mature take on it as opposed to kind of working in the angle of like the serial killer, which feels like a bit Hollywoody, kind of like we've
Yeah, it's
got
almost like they
in-
don't think their story's interesting enough. But the problem
Yeah.
mainly in the narrative for me is they don't have enough suspects. It's obvious immediately who it is because it's got
Yeah.
to be somebody you know.
Yeah. It says there's very few suspects, and it's like it's got to be one of these. And you know they do the red herring one. You like instantly you're like, well, that's the red herring character because it
Yeah,
can't
you
be
know,
him.
yeah. We know how stories work, and it was too obvious.
So yeah, it says it's
Yeah.
got to be one of them. But like, perhaps they should have had because at the end of the book, there's the creator's talking about it, and she's like a real person who went through this life, and she talks about a time, and obviously it's all in there apart from the serial killer bit, sort of
Yeah.
stalking her. But like, it's interesting trying to sort of reconcile the two halves, where she kind of has a problem with the fact she used to be academically very well read and at school, and then she kind of went to this cam girl thing to get a lot of money, but now finds it hard to find her way back. And as we was talking before the show, like this I think could be a problem. Like this is kind of touted as like you've got money problems. Why not start up your OnlyFans site? I was like,
Yeah.
I feel there might be an issue with this coming down the line. Like they're very quick to pick up other topics that could equally be socially kind of like undermining. And then you've got this one. It's like, well, it's making money. It's like, well,
it's a very short term.
Right.
Yeah, it's a short term view. You're making money, but then again, you're making money off the backs of people who probably could well be very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And aren't the sort of people who can hold down a relationship, but you seem to be taking money off them quite a lot.
Yeah.
And
it's been touted as being very kind of like empowering, and it's like, is it?
Yeah. Wait till she has kids and their friends at school look their mum up.
Yeah.
Wait till that happens. Tell me how empowering that is for their kids.
The character in the book and the writer who goes to talk about her, she had a breakdown for over a year and then come out of it.
Yeah.
But then like she's been sort of getting on this doing the cam stuff, and it's like fuck, it feels like she needs an intervention to kind of help her out. And I think the long of it, she has come out of it and stopped doing it. But from the stories I've read and the articles I've read about it, it's kind of touted as, oh, this is like quite easy money. But then on the other side of it, when people have come out of it, they're like, fucking hell, I was giving it the biggin about how good this was, and it's absolutely horrible. Like you just
it's got to psychologically affect the people doing it. You can't tell me it's not. You got to be, there's people who take advantage of them. I mean, look, Andrew Tate ran cam girls for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
You are taking advantage. Everyone goes, "Oh, yes," it's a level. But this is massive. It's just a big fucking dose of capitalism, isn't it? It's just, and it's not just even capitalism. You're taking advantage of people who are vulnerable by telling them you probably love them, or, all right, I don't know how. I've never seen a cam girl act. I don't know how it works, but from the documentaries I've seen on it,
from what I've read, is like you'd have the girl, but then you'd have like a load of blokes pretending to be that girl to talk to.
On texting and stuff like that,
and like coaxing more money out of them, and it's like this is fucked.
It's a scam job.
I'm not saying anyone involved in this book or anyone like that was involved in that kind of stuff, but it kind of like, oh man, this is a subject.
It's dishonest in itself, I think.
Yeah, that's one of my big problems with the book, when you kind of like, you could have had a talk here or kind of looked at this whole situation as thinking, the pros and the cons, what's good for me, what's good for you. But then you kind of put in this kind of hokey stalker thing, which is like,
I think it didn't need the stalker thing, and I think I liked the first person narration in it. I really thought it was okay. I thought the way she spoke about herself, it wasn't like, I'm brilliant, I'm empowering myself. There was she was showing her vulnerability. She was showing that she'd had a breakdown. We got all this from it, and I think that's a really interesting element to it. I don't, like you said, I don't think the stalker thing was necessary at all.
No.
I tell you what, I think I put in the end of that review, I was trying to think if I wrote it or not, but what occurred to me is I'd love to see a comic done from the point of view of one of the punters.
Yeah.
I think if there's anyone out there brave enough to do that, I think that would make a really interesting counterpoint to what she's saying there, and balance as well.
There's, going back to the first part of the show, is sort of making stuff that's controversial. There is like a lot of people that say they're putting out books that are controversial and sort of challenging norms. But then you get a subject like that, which hasn't been looked at or told, and it's like, that's the challenging, not some of the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need another challenging book on the same subject for the fifth time. Try and bring something else out to light. Or
I mean, it's big parallels to Hidden Lives in the Hall Chronicles. This for me.
Totally. I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
And that was real stories from real people, and we tried to be like massively honest with it. And the only other problem I got to say I have with this comic is the cover's terrible. The cover is clearly a photograph.
Yeah.
And it looks nothing like the person in the comic.
Yeah.
It's clearly, look. Oh, here we go again with the reference material. There's an overuse of reference where it just makes it look like you're drawing over a photograph, and this is what it looks like to me. And the girl on the cover is just a completely different character or person from the girl in the comic, and it just doesn't work. It's almost like generic, girl of a certain age, of a certain race on the cover in cool clothes.
There's a variant cover which doesn't do much. I mean, if you've got there's the whole story going on there. There's a lot you can play with in terms of imagery, and it's just like, oh, we've got like a semi-naked girl on the front, but it's like, oh, okay, it's not. I mean, you've got cameras there. There's like, you can use image for that imagery. The stalker.
I think it's genuinely a good experiment. It's the way I come out of it. I thought about it overnight. Actually, I wasn't going to do it as the top comic. It made it to the top comic of the week for me. I think there's a genuine effort in there, creating something that's honest. I think she could have done with better covers and a better sort of advice around how to script it.
I wonder if that was editorial input. That stuff about we've
got to have a hook. You've got to have a murder story in there, and you don't. The thing is, AWA have done a few sort of sex thrillers. Is it Andrew Starr? What's his name again? He did one, Casual Fling, which I really liked. Which is on. Have you read that? You read that, Vince, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's a good little story. That is.
It's pretty tense, that one.
Yeah, by a guy who knows thrillers, because he's just like a thriller novelist, that dude, and that really works. And I think of the AWA sort of sex thrillers I've seen, I think that's probably my favourite. But then maybe they're just trying something, man. You know, they're just putting out. Somebody's come forward and said, "I used to be a OnlyFans girl. I've got a comic in me. What do you think?" Yeah, let's give it a go. I think that's a good thing.
It is rated mature, but like, that's for the content. There's no kind of sex acts or
not really, is there?
Even nudity in the book. Which was a shame. So I just had to derail at the end there. So so go check it out. It's on Global. You can
nice.
Go check it out now.
Changing the tone completely. My one I read on Global, and there's a compendium of it from Vault Comics. This one completely fucking passed me by, just in general. This is from writer Dennis Hopeless, artist Victor Ibanez, colorist Addison Duke and KJ Diaz, letterer Simon Boland. This is Heart Eyes. Now, what is Heart Eyes? Well, let me tell you. Sanity-eating monsters ended humanity. This isn't a biographical. I know that feels like that's happening at the moment. But,
how you feel at the moment listening to this?
Yeah. The unlucky few who survived now hide in the cracks of a broken world, and yet somehow, beneath the graveyard that used to be San Antonio, Rico met Lupe, the girl of his dreams, and an enigma. How did she get here? Why is she smiling? No one survives out in the street. No one smiles where the monsters lurk. But Lupe does. This the cover caught my eye. I thought, I'll give it a go. First off, first thing to note, Dennis Hopeless. Haven't read anything from him for a while. He's responsible for like Avengers Arena and Avengers Undercover, which I absolutely loved. They were some of my favourite books way back in the day. If you look at some of our earlier episodes, I was all about that series, Avengers Arena. Even though people were like, oh, you can't do this. It was fucking awesome.
I like that series.
Yeah. Victor Ibanez is a fucking revelation in this, because this is an artist that post-apocalyptic, obviously. And when you think, the end of humanity, people surviving in the cracks, you think, we've seen that before, a lot of, The Walking Dead or, The Last of Us kind of style stories, etc. But if you add into that huge, this is the Lovecraft influence, that the eldritch monsters from beyond a different place, pulled forward from God knows where, but we're talking ginormous city-eating creatures, just came out and just hunted and devoured pretty much most of the world. And then it does talk about how the world sort of broke down. There is a little bit of a narrator talking about it, giving you bits of information. The first page immediately made me laugh, because the first 4 panels are done like a mobile screen of an influencer, basically at Motivate Mark. He's sort of live streaming saying, something's going on in the street. The gym's closed, so we're going to do our Monday motivation right here in the street. And as he's talking, you see a sinkhole's opened up, and then like creatures like come out of it, and he's just murdered on the 4th panel. You like live on his live stream. He's just he's just ripped apart. And when I say they're creatures, and you think, it's just tentacles or something Cthulhu-like and stuff. These are enormous they're all different kinds of like squid-like creatures, tentacles. They're like spider-like creatures. There's like the creature design in this is amazing, and they're all nightmarish. And they are. You just think through this book, you just think, well, the world's fucked. The world just doesn't stand a chance. But the story itself is about this girl Lupe, who's wandering through this world completely untouched, and she's just lonely. And and she's just sad. She hasn't got any friends. She's walking along, and then she meets this kid Rico, who discovers her, and he's in like full scuba gear when he first sees her. He's thinking, where the hell has she come from? And he sort of snatches her away and goes, it's dangerous out there. And she immediately kind of falls for him in the first sort of scene. But then as it unravels, well, what is it about this girl? Why? And you see flashbacks to her life. I don't want to give too much away, because the joy of this was just it changes as well. I know I told you that synopsis. Thankfully, I mean, it goes on for ages, the synopsis. I only read you the important bit. It's about 5-6 issues. And the way that the story develops and changes seemingly issue to issue whilst exploring the story gets bigger and also more personal. As the work, it was just a fascinating experiment in like scale-wise, it gets massive. But in its final moments, even though for all of that grand scale, it's between two people. It's a conversation between two people. And that's fascinating. And when we get to things like that, obviously the Akira type, all of those those influences are in there as well. But it's if you like your horror and you like giant monsters and you like post-apocalyptic stuff, this was just hitting all the right buttons. And I had no idea this existed as well. It was a story that was a little bit different, and main characters that were a little bit different. And it took me on a journey that I wasn't expecting. And because as much as I'm a sucker, I'm a stan for all the cosmic horror and all of that. But we've seen so much of it that it's like, oh yeah, is it just going to be the same thing we've seen before? The creatures are there, but do they really mean anything? Are they just there to look cool? No, there's a reason for these things, and they're also more of an actual thing in it. Like I say, there's a compendium. You can just read it all in one go if you want. The art itself. There was a slight Brian Hitch like quality to it, but a little less referencey. When some of the Brian Hitch stuff, it looks very much photo.
Yeah, David Tennant.
This had that kind of scale, but it felt more like a comic art rather than just someone tracing something. Beautiful stuff. Heart Eyes, like I say, when I first mentioned it to the guys, they were like, "What?" And I know there's a slasher movie called Heart Eyes out at the moment, but
it's not very good.
This is something, but this is something completely different, and I'm definitely going to see if I can get my hands on a printed copy just so I can see the book itself. So there you go, and that's from Vault. Tony, do you want to sign us off quickly?
Okay, last one, Manhole.
Which you mentioned a few times.
Yeah, it was a volume 1 in a 3-part trilogy by Tetsuya Tsutsui. It's manga. Kind gift from Mr. Tom Curry himself for Christmas, I think, got it for me. So it opens with this pale, thin, naked man is walking. He looks like he's had his head shaved as well. He's walking through the streets of it's Sashihari City, which is within Tokyo, I think. And he looks like he's crawled out of a sewer, aka the manhole of the title, to get your mind out of the gutter. He's got blood all over his face and arms. And there's a kid called Yoichi, and he's paying little attention to what's going on, as most kids do. And he's looking at his phone, and he's walking on the street, and he bumps into this naked man. Everyone else is like scared of, but because he's just looking at his phone, texting this girl. He bumps into this dude who vomits blood on him before he falls dead at the man's feet. And this is the first part of the story arc and the first moment for what is a sort of parasitical disease horror 3-parter. And I've got to tell you, it's refreshing to read a story that's about a parasitical disease that isn't about zombies. So this is not about zombies.
I thought it was going to get zombies in a second.
Yeah. To be fair, by the end of the 3rd part, you might do. I've only read the first one. So the police eventually get hold of him, but not before he goes back to his girlfriend, so this girl he's seeing, and he has sex with her for ages. And during the police interviews, they're taking a statement from him. He begins to feel worms crawling inside of his face, and he leaves. He just walks out of the interview room, and it turns out that there's this new species of worm that they found that burrows into humans. It's akin in a way to the worms that cats and dogs get, but this is kind of the human version of it. And before an inevitable death from it, it robs the victim of basic needs. It robs them of the need to eat, the need to sleep, and it also even flatlines their need for their sexual desire. And it's contagious through the contact of blood or through flies and stuff like that. It's a bit early Cronenberg. It's a bit rabid.
Okay.
It's a bit Shivers, that sort of thing to me. The detectives go to this venue, so they get this. They track down the story. They go to this empty lot in this place, sort of outskirts of the city, and it's just an empty lot. And they go to the neighbours. What, have you seen anyone in this empty lot? And they say, well, people park there all the time. There's not much going on there. And they're looking around, and they discover, oh, there's a manhole cover. So it's a big sort of detective and a girl as his assistant, and they find conveniently near this manhole cover a tire iron, and that's a bit convenient. So he can't get down the manhole, so she climbs down, and just at the base of this manhole is a chair with all wired up stuff and everything in it, and she's looking around with her little torch, and she's not aware that the bloke standing behind her, who's being experimented on, he's got out of the chair and he sort of stepped behind her, and she climbs out the hole. And the investigation carries on and carries on. And as with these sort of, disease, sort of spread stories, it's slowly getting worse, and the disease is spreading. And you realise the girl that Yoichi had sex with before he went in to give his statement, she's got something up with her as well. So it becomes like, it's a really good page turner, put it that way. Lovely art. It's not all big splash pages. It's a lot of, pages cut up into panels, and they know what they're doing. From it. Lovely clean artwork as well, which I really liked. No sort of massively flashy visuals that we get in a lot of manga. It's more of a sort of older readers manga, I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah.
Translator is Mercedes C. Gillian. Letters T. Lala. 16 plus. It's described as. It's published by Kana, which is an imprint of Abrams actually, so they know what they're doing. But yeah, really cool. Go and find Manhole. It's had a bit of heat actually. I've seen a couple of YouTube shows review it recently. So if it's just a 3-part manga, I mean, this was a nice read over breakfast. It's 180 pages or something. 190 pages.
Man,
so it's not a bad
money's worth.
Yeah, you do a manga, don't you? Yeah, lovely little read. That's my first one. My second one, rather, Manhole. There you go.
Nice one. Man, that sounds great.
Tons of comics to check out. Comics old, new, and in between. Great stuff. And we hope you have enjoyed this week's episode and everything we've talked about. Some interesting topics of discussion. Keep the conversation going, whether it be on social media or on our Slack group. If you want to join us there's wonderful channels and groups talking about the wonders of comics, creating, reading, collecting. Or if you want to just keep the discussion going of this particular episode, there's a podcast discussion channel as well. And if you want to join,
we've got quite a lot of topics today.
Yeah. Sure. If you want to keep the chat going, get in touch with us and we'll get you sorted and up on the Slack and talking to all the fantastic people there. And if there's anything you want us to talk about on upcoming shows, you can get in touch with us in several different ways. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media at awesomecomicspod on Instagram, at the awesomepod on X. We are on the website. Dan always does the X symbol. It's wonderful to see. You can buy our merch again, acpgear.redbubble.com, to support the show. You can also support the show by listening to us on awesomecomics.podbean.com, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, where you can leave reviews, comments, helps get the word out about the show and everything we talk about on a weekly basis. Likewise on Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What are the networks we're on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network. The Shanghai Shotgun, is that a real thing? If so, please write in, let me know where I can get it other than Shanghai, because it would really save me some time.
I've never heard of that.
And we're just going to leave it, and we're going to leave that there, Dan. We're just going to leave
just an appeal to listeners
that there. But where can people find us online, etc.? After that shocking question, Tony, where can they find you?
Neveronanything.com or Tony EZ on Substack.
Yeah. Oh, you can find the show on Substack, by the way.
Oh, yeah, get on there.
Yeah.
Search for Awesome Comics Podcast on Substack, where
we put some images of the comics we talk about on there as well, which is quite a useful little platform to put that on there.
Yeah. Dan, where can they find you?
You can find me all over the internet, not on those sites.
Camgirl sites.
Yeah, I'm going to give that a go nowadays. How do men get on cam sites? Not too well. You don't get any money. They want to see your big fat hairy ass. But bring it back.
Don't do yourself down, Matt. It's not that hairy.
Oh. I'm talking about me.
Well,
you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com. Yeah. Like I said, my neighbours are porn stars. They don't know that yet.
Always comes in with a blinder at the end. You can find me
if you're a cannibal having a good time, never say you're having a ball.
Oh dear. You can find me on social media at Jester Diablo. Thank you very much for listening, folks. Join us here next week to talk about more comics. Dear us, just who knows what topics we'll talk about and who we'll be talking to or whatever. We'll see. But join us here, same bat time, same bat channel next week for more awesome comics talk. Thank you very much for listening from Dan, Tony, and myself. Have a brilliant week. Keep reading lots of comics. Keep making loads of comics. And when you made those comics, let us know about them because we want to read them and love them. And until then, what else should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
Bye.
Bye.